As someone that loves gaming news from pretty much every platform, it is a little bit odd to see how PlayStation's had a different strategy this year. It's not a bad strategy in my opinion, I just think it's different. Nintendo's had 2 general directs this year, and Xbox is kind of staying in the mainstream scene of things by going to every show. What is PlayStation doing? Well, they are not quiet. And before anybody thinks this is like a hater video, it's not. I want to see what you think of this perspective that PlayStation might be going in the direction of this year, which is focusing on a direction that is focusing on kind of deep dives of games instead of having general showcases. And this also has me thinking, is PlayStation going for just this new strategy of marketing, or is it them being pretty conceited? There's gonna be somebody in the comments that tell me PlayStation doesn't need to do anything. You're right, PlayStation doesn't need to do anything. That's why I'm just like, I'm curious if this is their new direction for just being different, or if it's them being cocky. Let me know in the comments. Because even in the back half of 2020 last year, PlayStation had about, I think, I could be wrong here, 3 different general showcases. They had one in June to showcase the PS5, and it was awesome. And there was one in August, and it was a really great one too. And then at the end of the year, they had one in December where they showed like Resident Evil 3, Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, and a few other things. It was good for those that wanted kind of a general showcase of multiple games instead of just focusing on one they're kind of like not too interested in. Did they continue that strategy in 2021? Kind of, because we did get our first state of play for PlayStation back in February, where it was a general showcase. And I honestly thought it was a good one. It was a decent general showcase, nothing too huge, but it did show a good look at the new Five Nights at Freddy's game, a good trailer for Kena Bridge of Spirits, and Final Fantasy VII Remake getting its DLC that I believe was exclusive to the PS5. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the last general showcase that PlayStation did. Sort of. Because they started to go into this direction of having more focused deep dives. And maybe in those deep dives, they would sprinkle in a couple other things. April, they had 2 deep dives. They had a really good look at Returnal because that was coming out soon. And they had a really deep look at Ratchet and Clank with like a 15-minute kind of state of play. So that was 2 deep dives in April that didn't really have like, you know, huge announcement, so to speak, but really showed off those 2 games super well. Then we get to May, where there was, again, no general state of play, but they did have a deep dive of the first gameplay for Horizon Forbidden West, and it looked awesome, and it just, you know, it showcased a great looking game, and people that are excited about it are probably like, through the roof. And those that were just interested in it, it's like, okay, here's a really good look at the game, and then you can judge. And then they completely skipped E3 season, which I was not expecting. I was expecting PlayStation to not do anything around E3, but maybe at like the end of the month. But no, they just stayed clear away from Summer Game Fest, E3, all that stuff, and didn't do anything in June, but instead had a very early July, the closest thing to a general showcase we had, where the highlight was, yes, Deathloop. They had a very deep dive on Deathloop, which is another PlayStation exclusive, so it makes sense they want to highlight that. But we also got to look at a few other things. And it's just this strategy that has me thinking, is PlayStation going this direction that is more about focusing on just like a couple games at a time, or really highlighting the one? Because I hear folks saying like PlayStation just doesn't have anything to show, and I vastly do not believe that. We do know they have 25, I think that's what it was, 25, something around that, games in the works that are going to be PlayStation exclusive. And when I hear that, why don't we know about them? Or even like a fraction of them? There's folks that are probably wanting me to flame the console wars. I'm not flaming console wars. It's just an observation that, yeah, Xbox has 23 studios working on stuff, and they have been announcing left and right what those studios are working on. And because of that, we know a heavy amount of the pipeline that Xbox has got going on. And that's what PlayStation did last year. Granted, last year was the blowout that we were waiting for with PlayStation. Here's Ratchet and Clank, here's God of War, here's Horizon, tons of new titles. But now it's starting to get to that point that Nintendo got to as well, where they bursted out all these things, and then now what? It's this trend that I really noticed PlayStation has been doing, where in 2016, they announced a crap ton of titles that we spent the next 3 or 4 years seeing them get released. Are we in that similar time of 2020 being that time where here's a crap ton of titles that are coming out and we're gonna wait maybe 2 or 3 years to see them all release? I think it's an exaggeration because we've already gotten through most of them. It's at this point at the top of my mind, all I can think of is like that Stray game from Annapurna, God of War, and Horizon Forbidden West. I'd like to acknowledge that PlayStation, more than Nintendo and Xbox, does the best job of really showing their games when they're coming out, of really showcasing it, having these deep dives, showing straight gameplay instead of like a sizzle reel of the game. And they're doing that really well this year. The thing that they haven't done is a general showcase, and it makes me wonder if they're kind of stockpiling. They want to have that huge blowout. And is that their strategy now? To have maybe 1 or 2 kind of semi shows, have a few deep dives throughout the year, and then one giant showcase to make people go, holy shit, that's what we can expect for the next year or 2. I don't think it's a bad strategy. And yes, there's a part of me that does feel like it is PlayStation being a little bit cocky, but they don't. Again, somebody's going to put in the comments, PlayStation doesn't need to do anything because they are selling consoles left and right. People, trust them, so they have their market's trust and they could just do whatever the hell they want and still be successful. But it's just interesting to be in this summertime season and seeing EA, Bethesda, Xbox, Nintendo, Ubisoft, a lot of companies doing these big general presentations, but PlayStation does not. There was a rumor that they were supposed to have one August 12th, and that's why I waited to do this video, fun fact. I wanted to see if that happened, but it didn't. So maybe we're gonna have another deep dive soon. It seems like PlayStation rather wants to have this kind of continuous flow throughout the year, like can't go more than 6 weeks without some kind of news and things and whatnot, because that's generally what they're doing. Each of these things that I listed, they were within like 5 to 8 weeks of each other, and maybe that's their strat, to kind of constantly be in the scene with just something. It's maybe not a big show, but it's something. Do you think that's just their strategy for this year? Is it a cocky side of them that's just kind of like, all we need to do is just sprinkle some stuff out and we're good? Or is there really nothing to show for the other maybe 15 projects that we're not aware of? And how do you feel this compares to how Nintendo and Xbox have been handling 2021? I want to chat with you in the comments about this because I just thought it was an interesting topic. And hi, I'm Samurai Kibiji. Subscribe to the channel if you've been here before and enjoyed this, and just check out the video here having to do with why I find Xbox just a lot more pleasing to talk about lately. And don't forget to be geek, be proud, be awesome. I'll see you in the comments or next video.